Your hands are tied tightly behind your back. Your ankles are bound. You are 12 feet underwater, kneeling on cold concrete, and your lungs are burning with the toxic, frantic need to exhale. An instructor wearing scuba gear swims down, rips the air regulator completely out of your mouth, and violently ties your primary air hose into a tight knot. You have exactly 30 seconds of usable oxygen left in your bloodstream before your brain forces you to inhale water. If you thrash, you are failed. If you kick toward the surface, an instructor will physically tackle you back to the bottom. If you panic, you die. Your only option is to calmly, methodically reach behind your neck with restricted mobility, trace the hose, untie the knot, and clear the mouthpiece, all while your body is actively suffocating. Stand to welcome back to the tame room. Grab a seat. If you are new to the operational grid of this channel, let me give you the baseline briefing. I am a retired officer from the United States Special Operations community. I spent the better part of 2 decades doing the quiet, violent, and highly classified heavy lifting for the military in theaters of operation that will never appear on a public map. Due to the active non-disclosure agreements I signed in windowless rooms at the Pentagon, my face remains redacted and my name is completely off the grid. The military gave me a profound, lethal skill set, but it took its pound of flesh in return. My skeletal structure is held together by titanium hardware, my joints are bone-on-bone, and I carry localized nerve damage. The Department of Veterans Affairs sends a disability check every month to offset the physical destruction, but I am not here to rattle a tin cup. I am an officer. I was raised to lead, and I believe in working for my keep. This channel is built on a strictly enforced trade. I give you the raw, unfiltered, classified reality of modern warfare and elite tactical training. I break down the grueling psychology, the lethal physics, and the institutionalized suffering that recruiters and Hollywood directors will never expose you to. In exchange, I ask for your engagement. You hit the subscribe button, you smash the like button, and you drop a comment down below. That feeds the YouTube algorithm, it keeps this channel airborne, and it allows me to stay fiercely independent while delivering this intelligence directly to you. If you can respect that trade, then lock and load. We have a dark, deep, and suffocating movement ahead of us today. Today, we are leaving the terrestrial battlefield. We are leaving the mud of Ranger School and the pine forests of Camp McCall. We are heading to the southernmost tip of the United States, Key West, Florida. We are going to deconstruct the most technically demanding, physically punishing, and psychologically terrifying course in the entire United States Army. We are talking about the Special Forces Combat Diver Qualification course, CDQC. When the general civilian public thinks of military water operations, their minds immediately go to the United States Navy SEALs. The Bud S pipeline in Coronado is globally famous for its surf torture and log PT. The Navy owns the oceans. That is their domain. But within the special operations community, there is a quiet, universally understood truth. The Army's Combat Diver School is a completely different animal, and many operators who have experienced joint training environments will quietly admit that CDQC is the hardest water survival school in the Department of Defense. This is not a school designed to teach you how to swim. If you show up to Key West needing swimming lessons, you will be on a flight back to your home unit within 24 hours. This is a school designed to teach you how to perform complex, highly technical, tactical operations while your brain is being starved of oxygen. It is a masterclass in hypoxia. It is the ultimate test of whether your prefrontal cortex, the logical, calculating part of your brain, can maintain absolute dominance over your amygdala, the primitive emotional center that controls the panic response. The attrition rate is staggering. We are talking about a washout rate that routinely hits 40 to 50%. But you have to understand who makes up that percentage. The men arriving at Key West are not fresh recruits off the street. They are already Green Berets. They are already Army Rangers. They are Tier 1 operators, Delta Force assaulters, and seasoned combat veterans. These are men who have survived firefights in Afghanistan, men who have marched for days with 100-pound rucksacks, men who have passed the most brutal selections on Earth. And yet, the water breaks them. Why? Because muscle mass is a liability in the water. The massive, heavily muscled physiques that serve an infantryman well when he is carrying a heavy machine gun up a mountain are his worst enemy in the pool. Muscles consume oxygen. The larger your engine, the faster you burn through your air supply. Furthermore, muscle sinks, fat floats. The lean, shredded operators drop like stones to the bottom of the pool. To stay at the surface, they have to expend massive amounts of energy treading water, which burns more oxygen, creating a vicious, exhausting cycle. The environment at CDQC is deceptively calm. It is known as a gentleman's course. In Ranger School, the instructors are constantly screaming in your face, creating artificial stress through noise and chaos. In Key West, the instructors do not yell. They wear board shorts, sunglasses, and flip-flops. They speak to you in calm, measured tones. They don't need to yell at you. They let the water do the screaming. The water is an unfailing, relentless adversary. It does not care about your rank, your combat deployments, or how tough you think you are. If you make a mistake, you die. It is that simple. Phase 1 of the course is the physical gateway. Before you even touch a scuba tank, you are subjected to an apocalyptic physical fitness test. It begins with a strict 500-yard surface swim, followed by a punishing run in the 90-degree Florida heat with 100% humidity. But the real filter is the underwater crossover. You must dive to the bottom of the pool and swim 50 meters completely submerged without breaking the surface for air. To a civilian in a local swimming pool, this might sound difficult but manageable. But you are not in a civilian pool. You are wearing a combat uniform. You are fatigued. The pressure is immense. This introduces the physiological reality of the urge to breathe. Most people believe that the burning sensation in your lungs and the panic that sets in when you hold your breath is caused by a lack of oxygen. This is scientifically incorrect. The panic is triggered by a buildup of carbon dioxide in your bloodstream. Your body detects the rising CO2 levels and sends emergency signals to the brain to exhale and inhale. During a 50-meter underwater swim, an operator will hit the CO2 wall at about the 35-meter mark. Your diaphragm begins to contract involuntarily. Your chest heaves. Your body is physically trying to force you to breathe water. This is where the mental switch must happen. You have to intellectually override a millions of years old biological survival mechanism. You have to tell your brain, I know you think we are dying, but we actually have enough oxygen in our blood to make it another 15 meters. Shut up and keep swimming. Many men cannot flip that switch. They shoot to the surface, gasping for air. They fail. The men who do make it often experience shallow water blackout. They push through the CO2 buildup, but their brain simply runs out of usable oxygen just as they reach the wall. They lose consciousness underwater. The instructors are constantly watching for this. When a candidate goes limp, safety divers instantly pull them to the surface deck. The medical staff is standing by. They resuscitate the operator. The candidate wakes up on the wet concrete, coughing up pool water, confused and exhausted. Do you know what happens next? The instructor looks at the watch, looks at the candidate, and calmly says, "You passed the 50-meter line before you blacked out. Good job, get back in the water. Next evolution starts in 2 minutes." There is no time to process the trauma of literally dying and being brought back to life. You have to jump right back into the environment that just killed you. That is the standard of the combat diver. Once you pass the physical gates, you enter the true nightmare, Phase 2, Pool Competency, known simply as Pool Comp. Pool Comp is the most feared phrase in the special operations community. It is a series of underwater stress tests designed to ensure that if your equipment fails catastrophically at a depth of 80 feet in the middle of a pitch-black ocean, you will not panic. It begins with drownproofing. You are bound hand and foot. You are thrown into the deep end. You must execute a series of maneuvers, bobbing from the bottom to the surface to catch a tiny sip of air, floating on your stomach, swimming 100 meters while bound, and doing front and back flips underwater. Drownproofing is a psychological filter. Alpha males, by their very nature, are control freaks. They are accustomed to controlling their environment through violence of action, physical strength, and tactical dominance. When you bind their hands and feet and throw them in deep water, you strip away every single element of their control. They are completely helpless. The instinct is to thrash, to fight the water. But if you fight the water, you burn oxygen, you sink, and you drown. You must surrender to the water. You must relax completely. You have to sink to the bottom, wait for the right moment, and calmly push off the concrete to break the surface for a split-second gasp of air. It requires a zen-like state of calm while your body is screaming in terror. But drownproofing is just the warm-up. The main event of Pool Comp is the one-on-one underwater combat with the instructors. You are geared up in twin 80 cubic inch scuba tanks. You descend to the bottom of the deep end, you kneel on the concrete, and you wait. The instructors swim down. They are the aggressors. Their goal is to simulate a catastrophic entanglement or equipment failure. They attack you, and I mean attack. They violently rip the regulator out of your mouth. They turn off the valves on your air tanks. They rip your mask off your face so you cannot see. They grab your harness and spin you upside down and violently shake you to induce vertigo. They tie your air hoses into complex knots. And then they back away and watch. You are now blind, disoriented, upside down, and completely out of air. If you panic, you are done. If you attempt to shoot to the surface, an instructor will physically tackle you, drag you back to the bottom, and fail you. You must execute the recovery procedure perfectly. Touch, trace, secure. You reach behind your head, you find the valve, you turn the air back on, you trace the hose from the tank, feeling for knots. Your hands are shaking, your diaphragm is convulsing, your lungs are burning. You methodically untie the knot in the hose. You trace it down to the regulator. You put the regulator in your mouth. You purge the water from the mouthpiece. You take a breath. But you are not done. The instructor swims back in and attacks you again. This time, they take your tanks completely off your back and throw them across the bottom of the pool. You have to swim blind, feeling along the concrete, find your tanks, turn the air on, clear the regulator, and put the entire harness back on underwater. This cycle of attack and recovery goes on until the instructor is satisfied that you are biologically incapable of panic. I have seen some of the hardest men on the planet break during Pool Comp. I watched a seasoned Green Beret, a guy with a chest full of Valor medals, lose his composure during a mask-off harassment drill. He got disoriented, inhaled a lungful of chlorinated water, and panicked. He thrashed, kicked an instructor in the chest, and bolted for the surface. He breached the water gasping, his eyes wide with absolute primal terror. He was dropped from the course that afternoon. He didn't fail because he was a coward. He failed because his amygdala hijacked his prefrontal cortex. The water found his breaking point. If you survive the pool, you transition to Phase 3, the open water and the closed-circuit rebreather. Scuba diving with compressed air is for tourists. When you dive with open-circuit scuba, you exhale massive clouds of bubbles. If you are a Special Forces dive team trying to infiltrate a hostile harbor at night to plant a limpet mine on an enemy destroyer, bubbles are a death sentence. Bubbles leave a visual trail on the surface that a sentry with night vision goggles can spot from a mile away. Bubbles also make noise. Combat divers use closed-circuit rebreathers, specifically the Dredger LARV. The Dredger is a miraculous and terrifying piece of technology. It is worn on the chest, not the back. When you exhale, your breath does not go into the water. It goes into a scrubber canister filled with a chemical compound called sodasorb. The sodasorb chemically reacts with your breath to scrub out the carbon dioxide. The system then injects pure 100% oxygen back into the breathing loop. There are no bubbles, there is no noise. You are a ghost in the water. But the Dredger is incredibly dangerous. It operates on a knife's edge of lethal chemistry. If water breaches the breathing loop and mixes with the sodasorb, it creates a highly toxic, caustic chemical cocktail commonly called toxic cocktail. If you inhale it, it will burn the lining of your throat and lungs. More terrifying is the risk of oxygen toxicity. Breathing 100% pure oxygen at depth is toxic to the human central nervous system. If a combat diver goes too deep, usually beyond 20 to 30 feet on pure oxygen, the increased partial pressure of the oxygen attacks the brain. It causes central nervous system O2 toxicity. The symptoms are known by the acronym CONVNTID. Convulsions, vision changes, ears ringing, nausea, twitching, irritability, and dizziness. But the most common and lethal symptom is sudden, violent, underwater seizures. If an operator suffers an O2 tox hit, his body locks up, he spits out the mouthpiece, and he drowns instantly. There is also the risk of hypercapnia. If the sodasorb fails to scrub the carbon dioxide properly, you end up rebreathing your own exhaust. Because you are still getting oxygen, you don't feel the sudden urge to gasp. Instead, you slowly become confused. You become lethargic. A dark tunnel closes over your vision. You fall asleep underwater and you never wake up. Operating the Dredger requires absolute, unblinking vigilance. You have to constantly monitor your depth gauge. You have to constantly purge the breathing bag. You have to be a biochemist while navigating miles of open ocean. The final tactical exercises take place in the pitch black of the ocean at night. You are deployed miles offshore. The water is cold. The current is strong. You are paired with a swim buddy. A thick nylon buddy line physically ties you together. If your buddy drowns, he is tethered to you. You do not leave him. You navigate using an attack board, a small piece of plastic with a luminous compass and a depth gauge. You cannot see your hand in front of your face. You are swimming in an absolute void of black ink. The only thing you can see is the faint green glow of the compass dial. You swim for 4, 5, 6 hours. The fatigue sets into your legs, your core temperature drops, you are freezing, and the ocean is full of things that bite. You swim through schools of jellyfish, feeling the stinging tentacles drag across your exposed face and lips. You bump into large, unseen shapes in the dark. Bull sharks, tiger sharks, and hammerheads patrol these waters, but you cannot draw your weapon and you cannot break the surface. You must keep your eyes glued to the glowing green compass needle, kicking methodically, trusting the math, trusting the azimuth. You are tasked with infiltrating a hostile beach, moving stealthily through the surf zone, breaching the sand, and executing a tactical objective, all while your body is shivering and your brain is starved of calories. When you finally graduate the Combat Diver Qualification course, you are awarded the Combat Diver Badge. The Bubble. It is a silver badge depicting a scuba diver flanked by 2 dolphins. In the special operations community, that badge commands absolute silence and respect. When a ranger or a green beret walks into a team room with the combat diver bubble on his uniform, everyone knows what he has endured. They know that he has been taken to the absolute threshold of human panic, suffocated, attacked, and isolated in the dark, and he did not break. He has proven that his mind is completely insulated against terror. So why am I giving you this highly classified, incredibly specific breakdown of underwater trauma? Because the psychology of the combat diver is the exact psychology required to survive the most catastrophic moments of your own life. You will probably never find yourself at the bottom of a pool with your hands tied and your air supply cut off. You will probably never swim miles through shark-infested waters with a rebreather strapped to your chest. But the universe is going to throw you into the deep end. You are going to experience moments in your life where the pressure is crushing. A sudden health crisis, a catastrophic financial collapse, the loss of someone you love. The environment around you will violently strip away your control. The darkness will close in. When that happens, your biological instinct will be to panic. Your amygdala is going to scream at you to thrash, to make rash decisions, to fight the water. You will feel like you are drowning. The lesson from Key West is this: panic kills you faster than the water does. When life rips the regulator out of your mouth, you cannot afford to thrash. Thrashing wastes energy. Thrashing clouds your judgment. You must cultivate the discipline of the combat diver. You must force yourself to relax into the chaos. Acknowledge the fear. Acknowledge the pain. But do not let it drive the vehicle. Force your prefrontal cortex to take over. Analyze the situation. What are the variables I can control, touch, trace, secure, work the problem? Methodically, coldly, step by step, untie the knots that life has tied around